Welcome to the CFB Dynasty Podcast with hosts Matt Knowles and Brian McElfish.
Hey everyone, this is Matt Knowles. I'm here with Brian McElfish from CFBDynasty.com. This is the CFB Dynasty Podcast. How y'all doing out there today? B-Mac, how are you doing today?
Hey man, I'm doing good. Just here back at the Searchalytics office here in Ocala, Florida, and countdown to kickoff still ticking away in my head every second. Can't wait, especially now that we got our draft over. It's just the gap between the draft and actually week one, getting points for your players, setting lineups, all that stuff is brutal.
Yeah, we've got the countdown going, so we have 10 days until the start of the regular season. That regular season start is week 0. So even though the regular season for college football starts in 10 days, the college fantasy season does not start for another week or so after that. So we're going to have to sit through week 1 and see some of our guys hopefully score well. Hopefully they can stave off injury, and so we can get to that week 1 so that we can see our teams actually do something. So today we're going to be talking about all things tight end. We're going to be talking about tight end sleepers. We're going to be talking about the guys that we like. Tight end is one of the most difficult positions in all of fantasy sports when you're talking about college fantasy football. Why is it so difficult? Because most schools use tight ends if they have one in a traditional way. The college offenses are a lot faster nowadays, a lot more 4 and 5 wide receiver packages. You don't see a whole lot of tight ends that are really going off stat-wise. The ones that you do see that are going off stat-wise are like a Mark Andrews, where he was lined up as a slot receiver. And a lot of times those guys get the designation of wide receiver and tight end, and then sometimes they'll slip, and then next season they're a wide receiver only. So it's hard to get your hands on a tight end that's really going to be a game changer. So later on in this podcast, we're going to talk those tight ends, see if we can uncover some gems that can help take your game and give you that edge to be able to get those W's.
And we'll also talk about where should you take a tight end. We've got some data to kind of talk through and showcase when we get to that part of the pod.
So, B-Mac, the first thing you want to talk about, you want to talk about the draft that we just had this past weekend, the CFB Dynasty Home League, the Home Expert League draft that we just had?
Yeah, let's do it. I'll, for those of you on YouTube, throw up a picture of us here at the draft. We did have one of you guys answer, probably either from the Discord comments or from maybe the podcast last week, ask, do I see the Uncle Joe? And as the Uncle Joe update goes, no, you didn't see him. He kind of stood his ground like a mule and drafted remotely, but it was still fun. We had a great time. It was nice getting a big group of us together. Most of us are here in Central Florida. The rest of them, we've got a couple in Georgia. You see one on the screen there, and then Joe maybe 30 or 40 minutes down the road.
So let's talk about that guy on the screen real quick. That's Mike Davis. So Mike Davis has not been to a draft in, I can't even remember. Well, do you even remember the last time Mike Davis was actually at a draft?
Yeah, it's probably been 5 years or so.
Well, that's because Mike Davis does not have his priorities straight. The man decided he was going to get married on draft weekend, pretty much the same weekend we have draft every year. So he uses the excuse of, guys, it's my anniversary weekend. I can't be at the draft. And we want to know from you guys on Discord, do you think that this is a valid excuse for why he can't make it from Georgia down to Florida for the draft, or do you think he needs to get his priorities straight? So let us know on Discord if you think that this is a valid excuse for Mike Davis.
It's a good point. I'll also add that we're going into year 15 as a group here. So for a lot of us, this predates our kids and our marriages and stuff. So yeah, Mike Davis totally should be able to, by now, year 15, make it down to the draft.
Yeah, you said 9 of the 12 owners in this league have been there since year 1. So that's a pretty impressive that we have 9 guys that have been doing this for 15 years.
Yeah, man, it's a blast. So we had the draft. Do you have any players? Did you feel like you got sniped on anyone specifically?
I got sniped one time, and that was getting Titus Swen from Wyoming. I was really looking forward to getting him. One of the neat things about the way that our league works is we have a college pro dynasty league. So the first year we had a college draft and a pro draft. And after that, there's been no pro draft anymore. It's just your college guys moving up onto your pro team. And you're just filling in your spots where guys have either gone to the pros or transferred to a non-fantasy position, gone FCS, left football. So everyone's draft in college is going to be a little bit different. And this was probably the most odd draft that I've ever been a part of, where I pretty much lost my entire wide receiver core. They all became UDFAs in the pros, or they're done with football. So my wide receiver core was basically wiped clean. Running backs, I had some guys that transferred into running back by committee positions. So I basically went in with every quarterback on my team stayed, couldn't even draft a quarterback, and had to basically refill running backs and wide receivers. And you're not normally going to be able to refill an entire position group in this kind of draft, all in one draft. So I just went heavy on wide receiver. 5 of my first 6 picks were wide receivers. I wanted to get Swen up in there, but I got sniped by Josh Speed Reed 1 pick before me. So I just had to keep on going with the wide receivers. And we got done with the draft, and I looked at my team, and my running backs are still really rough because I picked a lot of young guys to try and fill in the gaps at running back. And then I find out Roshawn Johnson, we'll talk about here in just a little bit, got injured, and the news came out during our draft about his injury. So that just made my team even more weak at the running back position. Overall, I felt like I did good, but I definitely got a lot of holes to fill. What about you, B-Mac? Did you get sniped from anybody? I know you did. I know your reaction a couple times. Who were you most upset about not getting at that draft?
There was 2. Byron Cardwell, I really wanted, Oregon's running back. Mike Davis sniped me there, and then Davis got me again on Zak Koontz, who we'll talk about a little bit later on today at tight end. But yeah, I just waited 1 round too late and got sniped, but it's my own fault.
Hey, it is what it is. What can you do, though, man? When you, like we said, this league has been going on for 15 years, and everybody in the league is really intelligent. They really do their homework. And the guys that have come in that have been new owners, guys like Doug Gravely. He's a guy that is the most recent owner into our league, and he is a really intelligent dude, and he is up the level. The curve, the bottom of the curve in the league is raised quite a bit. And Doug has made sure there's one less guy that's going to be making silly picks at the draft. He's a really intelligent guy, and making it more difficult for us to be able to find those gems because he's sniping them.
Yep, at Doug on Discord if you want to hit him up. But he helps us out a lot with rankings and stuff, and wants to join this podcast. But we're shooting here 10 a.m. on a Wednesday, and doesn't work with his schedule. So maybe we'll get him on at some point.
Get the special guest action. All right, so are we ready to talk news and notes? Is that where we're at, Brian?
Yeah, let's go ahead and get into it.
News and notes.
So when we left off, it was Hartman last week. So basically everything that's happened since Sam Hartman, and there's been a lot, including some stuff that happened at the draft with Doug that you're talking about. So he drafted Isaiah Nayer. He was super excited to pick him up in the 2nd round of our draft, and then got the bad news after the draft.
Yeah, when you have Texas have multiple guys go down, you had 2 guys that went down with season-ending injuries, and then Roshawn Johnson, who is one of the top backup running backs in the country, go down with an ankle injury. They're saying that his injury is not going to be a season ender. He has a sprained ankle, but having a guy like that go down and be going to miss part of the season, going to miss that early season Alabama game, that's brutal for a guy like me. I've got Roshawn Johnson in every league that I'm in. So that just takes one of my guys off the board. And with the way our leagues are set up, you only have 3 player pickups all year. So you can't go out and just go pick up a guy to replace him for a week. There are no weekly streamers in these leagues. So I just got to go with what I got. Hopefully one of my freshmen is going to step up and get some week 1 carries, but we shall see.
Yeah. Another big, odd story kind of broke after our draft with Jarrett Doge from Western Kentucky, trying to pick up where Bailey Zappi left off, and he's transferring out, entered the portal, and so that had led to Austin Reed, likely starter for the Hilltoppers now, and he goes up to he's going to be probably a top 15 fantasy quarterback at year's end. And so he was probably in our 200s before the draft, and now if you have a later draft, you can go ahead and pick Austin Reed as a sleeper. But what a crazy story. I don't know why the transfer happened, but it did. So Austin Reed it is for now.
I'm telling you what, yeah, Western Kentucky, if you're able to get your hands on anybody at Western Kentucky, they lost a lot of guys. Their top receiver, the top receiver in college football, receiving yards and touchdowns last year, left early. He's playing for the Bucs right now. So there's a lot of holes to fill at Western Kentucky. Hopefully guys can step in and get those crazy stats back like Bailey Zappi did last year at quarterback. So we shall see.
So I will add that, in addition to the Discord notes, which let me throw that back on the screen here. So if you're in the conference talk area, that's where I'll come in typically every morning and look at yesterday's news and post in here everything that's happening. I also was posting kind of live during Late Kick Sunday night as he was kind of going over some of his news and notes, just kind of posting in here like Card, kind of taking all the reps with the ones right now. That battle with Ewers is still not over. So all that stuff is posted to the Discord. But I did get some comments last year about, putting all of these updates in the rankings too. Well, that is definitely time consuming to do, but I have obliged where I've added a little icon. So if you can see on the screen, like British Brooks, he's gone way down our rankings because he's out for the season at North Carolina. And I've got this little update column. So if you're on what you're seeing now is if you're on a mobile phone, you click the little plus sign and then you get all the other details. If you're on a desktop or laptop, you'll get all of this data on one screen. But yeah, injured out for the season, so that opens it up for others. So you'll see like an up arrow or a down arrow with notes on why those players are moving in our notes column. But all of that was adjusted because of your feedback, and your feedback is so important to us. Like, hop on the Discord, respond to us on Twitter, YouTube comments, all of that stuff. Really, just helps make our product better, and we appreciate it.
Brian, do me a favor. Go ahead and bring back up the picture from the draft again. I got a quick little correction here. So last week's podcast, I was told that I made a incorrect statement, a non-factual statement. So if you look on the right-hand corner, you see the guy over there in the yellow shirt. That's Gordy Miller. Gordy was listening to the podcast, and he was scouring it to make sure that everything that me and Brian said was factually correct. And he called me out, said, Matt, you made a comment on there that's not true. You said that Joe has won multiple championships in this league, hashtag Uncle Joe. And he's like, that's not true. Uncle Joe has never won a championship in this league. He's never been a college champ. He's never been a pro champ. He's never been a global domination champ. In my mind, I play in a bunch of leagues with Joe. I played in pro leagues with Joe for over 20 years. And in the other league that I'm in with Joe, Boffel, Joe has he's won quite a few championships there. So when we were on the podcast, I was thinking in overall totality that Joe has been a fantasy champ at some point. So Gordy, you're right. Joe has never won anything except for being the toilet bowl chump in this league. So there you go. There's your correcting, Gordy. Thanks for making sure you keep us honest.
Yeah, that's great. Let's see. So we've got some other news and notes to kind of go over. So those were the main ones. Miles Brennan, he's gone from football. He's leaving football. I think he heard that he wasn't going to be the starter. So we've got Jaden Daniels and Garrett Nutsmeyer splitting the first team reps. And if you listen to Late Kick, Josh Pate, he loves Garrett Nutsmeyer, thinks he'll get some starts at some point in the year, and says he's got the biggest upside. So that's going to be one to kind of watch and follow how those reps kind of work and into camp. But yeah, game one against Florida State, I wouldn't be shocked if they both played.
Yeah, which probably means even if you have either one of them, you want to keep them out of your starting lineup.
Yep. Braylon Allen was nicked up a little bit. Your boy Matt Chesmalusi got extra snaps with the ones as he was sidelined. Trevante Citizen, significant injury for Miami. He was killing it in camp, so it's sad to see kind of him go down, but he's still incredibly valuable in any of your keeper/dynasty leagues. Roshawn should be fine. Jai Hall, obviously suspended indefinitely still. Brew McCoy, we're still waiting on eligibility. He's still just kind of waiting on the NCAA. That probably won't last too long. But all the rest of that stuff, again, we're posting that in the Discord. You can check it out there. But speaking of the NCAA going away, the video game is coming back in a new name, and got some updates on that. So that's one that, you and I have played in a bunch of different online dynasties in the past, and super stoked for that to kind of re-kick off. And there are some notes about that one. Did you get to check that out at all yet, Matt?
I haven't checked out the notes on the new game coming out. I'm definitely excited about it. That was probably the single most played game in my household for years, as long as it was out, because a lot of the guys in this league and some other guys were really, really tight on that. We had online dynasties, and we probably ran over the course of the history of that franchise. We probably ran like 50 years worth of dynasties together. And I'm the kind of guy that would go in and get relationships with my players. I would change their names, and I would hate to have to cut a guy or remove a guy because I've had him since he was a young kid. And so it was a fun game. There were some definite issues there. One of the guys in our league, Danny Tucker, gained his nickname Broken Controller from playing in those NCAA dynasties, because Danny definitely smashed a few controllers in his day there. So it'd be interesting to see how our guys react when we get a new dynasty up. So Brian, what are you seeing in the news there that you that is interesting to you?
So a lot of people are freaking out about the fact that the game is built on the Madden engine. It doesn't bother me. Like, the game feels so much different. They're really seemingly working hard on making it feel like a college game. If you remember when the RPO started, the game was still built on Madden engine, and the gameplay was totally different in terms of, you had the college-specific plays, the RPOs, and things like that kind of launch on NCAA. So really, for me, I'm just grateful. I'm stoked that it's going to come out, and the countdown is on for that too. A lot of the players still have to opt in to the game, so they're going to get a minimal amount of money. Maybe it becomes like $1,000 or 4 digits or whatever, but the players still have to opt in to be in the game. So what's going to happen if, let's say, the game is coming out and Quinn Ewers doesn't want to be on it? Is Texas quarterback 1 just worse, or are they going to put someone else in there? That's undecided so far. Cover art is undecided so far who that's going to be. But you see players like Jack Beck from LSU with quotes in the article. They're already talking about it around the locker room, like trying to have a really good season this year so their ratings are up in the game next year. So that part is hilarious. They say
one of the things you said there about about people having to opt in, because I've been paying attention to that part of the discussion. I agree. If a quarterback says, hey, they don't want to be in it, the game is going to have to be very, very careful with that. They can't be like, oh, we're going to put this quarterback is this size. We're going to make the quarterback same ethnicity, same size, same weight, same look, same hairstyle, because then they're going to get into that same issue that they had in previous years. They talked about just making some generic players to go into those spots. I think that's great, but then they also said that could cause a problem when it comes to creating your own players, because then you're going to have guys that are going to go in and say, oh, well, we've had 50 guys on this team that opted in. We're going to have somebody else just go in here and just make a custom roster that's going to have all the right guys in there, and to try and circumvent that. So hopefully that doesn't become as much of an issue. I mean, it's unfortunate that it will, but I just want to be able to see a team that actually makes sense.
It seems like it's undecided if that's even going to be an option. If you're going to be able to customize rosters, I'm sure they won't make it as easy as it should be in the age that we're in now, with the ability to just kind of build rosters and import them, like super common to Madden or 2K or whatever you play. You can edit and customize the roster to your liking, but it's not sure, or they're not sure if that's going to be even an option to edit players. That would be
unfortunate, because that was one of the most fun things in there, where you could go in and edit player numbers and names and really customize your teams. But you know what? Just to have a game back, beggars can't be choosers, I guess. As long as the game engine and a lot of the issues that we had with the game engine, where guys could find plays that were just going to be completely broken and there's nothing you could do about it, and just kind of lean into those plays. That to me is going to be the thing that's going to make the game work or not. Because once you have those things fixed, then you can actually know, hey, I'm going to go play Brian McElfresh. And back in the day, I remember pretty correctly that I beat Brian probably 95% of the time that we played. That's how I want to remember it. Just don't go back and look at the factual stuff, Gordy Miller, because you might find something different than that. But I know when I would play Brian, I was going to get a real game, and he was going to have a real game plan, a real playbook. Wasn't going to be the same play over and over again. But when you play the computer system and you're playing computer games, you could go in there, use 3 plays and beat them in a game. We don't want that. We want a game that's got a solid engine behind it. So hopefully that's the case.
Yeah. So modes that are going to return, of course, Dynasty. Like that's the only one I really cared about. And they said Road to Glory was a popular mode. I really don't know if there's data to back that up. Like, I'm in the website world, where of course I can see what ads work on what landing pages, what products are working, because I get that analytics. I don't know what kind of analytics they can get back for like people using or not using Road to Glory. I don't ever remember playing that other than the first time it launched. But yeah, they say that'll be back in the game, whatever. Throwback uniforms, helmet stickers, those are going to be included in the game. And also not sure if real coaches will be in the game. They haven't really encountered that, but they're still working on building in all of the, school-specific traditions, songs, chants, all of that stuff, which makes the game great. So hopefully that'll continue, and hopefully you'll be able to kind of build your own school like we did. I forget the name of that mode. Ultimate Team or something like that, where you could build your own school and kind of build your own traditions, upload your own music to play at certain points of the game, and that was fun for Dynasty mode too. So we'll kind of see. That's in progress and still scheduled to launch July next year. So super stoked about that.
I'm just glad we're even having this discussion, because it's been a long 8-9 years since that game came out.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. So, ready to get into tight ends?
Yeah, I think it's time to get into tight ends. Like we said earlier, tight ends in college fantasy football, one of the most difficult positions to find playmakers, because there's not as many playmakers out there to be able to snipe from other guys. And your expectations normally need to be a little bit more tempered, because you're not going to be out there getting 50-point performances on a regular basis. So, B-Mac, let's start. Do you want to start with sleepers, or do you want to start with just talking about guys you like, or the obvious guys that are out there, and then kind of going down the line? What do you want to do?
I want to start with the obvious ones. Just the biggest question is kind of where do you draft a tight end? What's a good part in your draft to kind of, like, do you want to lead the way and take that Brock Bowers, that Michael Mayer, or do you want to kind of wait and get your tight end 8, tight end 9, 10, load up on running backs, whatever. So the one way that I look at this is how many points advantage do you get on your opponent? Not just, tight end 1 versus RB 2, like how many total points do they get? No, but what's the difference in that tier? So if you take a look, for example, at quarterbacks, quarterback 1 versus quarterback 12, the gap in there was about 4 points. So if you waited and got quarterback 12, you were giving up 4 points a game. But at tight end, if you drafted Bowers or Michael Mayer last year, you had about a 7 or 8 point advantage over your opponent if they ended up getting, one of the like bottom tier 1 tight ends. So that's a pretty big advantage to go into every week. 6 to 8 point advantage. Whereas like receivers, unless you had Addison, it was a 3 point gap basically between tight end or wide receiver 2 and wide receiver 12. Now, running back, there was also a big gap. The top 3 were between the top RB1 to RB3, as compared to like RB12, there was a 10 point per game gap. So running back, tight end, big advantage if you drafted, round 1 running back and then went tight end in round 2. That was going to pay off for you. A point system makes a big difference. But right now, looking at ADP going into this year, Brock Bowers is being drafted around 2.6, Michael Mayer quickly after at about 2.9, and then you've got about a 3-round wait before the next couple guys go off the board. Have you been able to land Bowers or Mayer in any of your leagues?
I have not because those guys have already been taken. I've got a couple of guys in that second tier that I'm actually really surprised. If you go and look at some of their stats, and I'll wait to talk about them here in a minute, but if you look at their stats from last year, they're not too far off from what those guys were doing. So it's really interesting seeing the huge gap between those guys being drafted in the top 2 to 3 rounds and some of these other guys that aren't getting drafted until the 10th, 11th round.
Yeah, I know it's so hard to be the guy that takes that first tight end because you probably don't ever feel like you get the value when there's all these great quarterbacks available, receivers and running backs available in round 2. But I like where they're being selected there at 2.6 and 2.9. I think that's valid if they continue, and they should continue to produce at those values. You wonder a little bit about Eric Gilbert, and will he diminish Brock Bowers along with the rest of the tight ends that Georgia has? But I don't think so, given the lack of top end proven receiver depth at Georgia. I think Bowers and Eric Gilbert can get theirs.
The biggest problem with Eric Gilbert, which you went through it last year. He's all over the place. What school is he going to be at? Is he going to stay here? Is he going to actually be integrated in the offense the way you needed him to? Last year, he really threw your roster for a loop because he was all over the place. Where is he going to be at school? But then they also kept playing around with his position.
Yep.
Because last year they made him where they in the system, he became a wide receiver only, and that threw your roster. You were unable to play him at tight end last year because he was a wide receiver only. So hopefully they leave him as a tight end and he's able to stay there all year, because if he is, you're probably going to get one of the best quote unquote sleeper tight ends that are out there.
Definitely. So before we really get into sleepers, I've got a few guys that I think I would probably try and snag a little bit above their ADP if you miss out on Bowers and Mayer. So Zak Koontz is one that, again, Mike Davis sniped me on, and I waited too long. So he's currently ADP. He's about 5.1 in terms of where he's getting picked as the 3rd tight end off the board. But Koontz, last year, he killed it. He had 73 catches, 692 yards, only 5 touchdowns, with a tight end of his size. Now he's a small 6'8", 245. Should be a prime red zone target. I would expect the touchdowns to go up if he catches anywhere near 73 balls again. I think he would be right there with Mayer and Bowers. And then you've got, let's go back to my notes here real quick. And then you've got Michael Trigg, who is a little less proven. I think his ADP is good at 5.2, but he's one certainly with just his talent and running a bunch of routes out of the slot, just like Jaheim Bell. Like those two guys could both outperform. They would be more, you know, potential sleepers if you take them a little bit earlier. But Koontz is one that I think his ADP could be right up there. I think he should be drafted closer to Mayer and Bowers.
One of the guys that just really blows my mind where he's getting drafted right now is Sam Laporta. When you put up that average draft position, Sam Laporta's average draft position right now is 10.6. So he's not getting picked until the 10th, 11th round right now. Laporta last year, 53 receptions, 670 yards. He only had 3 touchdowns, but the reception numbers and the yards numbers aren't that far off from what the top tier guys are. And this is a guy that is coming back to be one of the centerpieces of the Iowa offense. So I fully expect that his numbers are going to go up, and he has probably got the best chance based on previous performance where he slots into that offense to really jump into that upper echelon of tight ends this year. So if you've got Sam Laporta open in your league, he may not be one of those guys to take in the rounds 2 or 3, but he may be a guy to potentially draft a little bit higher than you would expect, because there's going to probably be a big drop-off, and he's got that huge upside just like Eric Gilbert.
Yeah, so Eric Gilbert I love. I think he's one that could be drafted higher as a sleeper because I think he's going to be just in a ton of 2 tight end sets, or they'll put him out at receiver or whatever. He's going to be a prime target for Georgia this year, even though you might see him as a tight end 2. Like he's definitely a fantasy-worthy tight end 1, in my opinion. A total sleeper that's not even on this ADP whatsoever has been getting hyped up for the blue turf squad over at Boise State is Austin Bolt. Now he is technically listed as a wide receiver, but in Fantrax he's listed as a wide receiver and a tight end. So if you can get him at tight end and play him there in your league, he's one that, if you look at his stats last year, he had 0 catches for 0 yards, 0 touchdowns, but he's getting hyped like crazy. Definitely a worthy selection as a late round sleeper.
B-Mac, that's a great
Austin Bolt.
That is a great point that you just made there, and probably a quick little segue. What happens with these guys that have got multiple positions that are listed? Last year, we had a situation that happened in one of our pro leagues where you had a player that was listed at multiple positions and a guy wanted to play him out of position. If your league says, hey, if there's a position that's showing, you can play him at whatever the position, it's fine. The way that we run all of our leagues is the position that you've drafted him in is the only position that you can play him in. You don't get to play a guy out of the position you drafted him in. And if there's a dispute, then you have to go back to what the team is actually listing on their official roster for the position. And if the team lists him as a tight end, even if Fantrax has him as a wide receiver tight end, you got to play him at tight end. If a team's got him at a wide receiver tight end, then you're great. If you're have a guy like Trent Penix or Jalen Samuels from NC State, where they had to create a new position in the ACC, which is called the H, and that's literally what they list him at, as the H. Well, who the heck knows? Because that could be running back, could be tight end, but go back to the position you drafted him in. And as a commissioner, make sure that guy's not trying to just gain a positional advantage by playing a guy out of position. If you allow that in your league, you're going to have guys caught with some grief. We have what we call the Ryan Tannehill rule that has been in place in our leagues, because if you guys don't know, when Ryan Tannehill started playing, he was a wide receiver, and he was converted from wide receiver to quarterback. And the college system was a little behind in making that change. And we had a guy that played Ryan Tannehill who got 65 points, I believe, as a quarterback for 1 extra week at a wide receiver and won a playoff game that way. So ever since then, we've had the Ryan Tannehill rule that you can't knowingly play a guy out of position, so that way you can try and gain points out of a technical advantage like that. So just keep that in mind. If you have these wide receiver tight end situations like that as a commish, you need to make sure you go in there and make sure the guy is not just being played out of position because of a procedural thing on Fantrax or whatever site you're using.
Yeah, those were weird times. That was back when Florida was, they had Jordan Reed a tight end who would play tight end, but then he would also line up at quarterback sometimes, and then Trey Burton, same thing. Just a weird scenario a few years there with Florida and Texas A&M, and a couple other schools kind of followed suit. But yeah, that's one. If your league's going to last a long time, you've addressed that by now because it causes fights if you don't.
Yeah, the most recent player we had that issue with was Lynn Bowden at Kentucky, where Lynn Bowden was playing quarterback some, playing running back some, and actually had a situation in a playoff game where I tried to play Lynn Bowden out of position, had to force him to make that switch, and ended up losing the game because he couldn't play that Lynn Bowden in a playoff in an out of position situation that week.
So I've got a couple more that I kind of like to target here. Would be Jatavion Sanders. That one is they've got at Texas, they've got Jaleel Billingsley transferred in from Alabama, but Sanders, he's legit. He's a 6'4", 240, 5-star prospect. I think he was the number 3 player in Texas when he came out, which is a big deal. He's really good. University of Texas. If he ends up, and it looks like he might, getting that tight end one at Texas, and the offense can take off, especially with Nair going down. Like, that's one that I would move him up now with that Nair news.
Yeah, and Billingsley, you would think, hey, somebody's a tight end, a starting tight end in an Alabama offense. Alabama doesn't use a whole lot of tight ends as far as fantasy is concerned. It's always their running backs, always their top 3 or 2 or 3 wide receivers. He just didn't get a whole lot of looks, and he was definitely not somebody that was really doing a whole lot there. I know he didn't transfer for fantasy purposes, but he definitely wants to get himself some more looks out there at Texas, and that's probably the right offense for him.
And I've got one more that I like as a sleeper. So Isaac Rex, who, maybe this is one of those players that just balls out as a freshman and then kind of never realizes their potential. But I don't think that's the case with Rex. 6'6", 247. He came out as a freshman, 37 catches, 429 yards, and 12 touchdowns. And then last year, 18 for 191 and 3 touchdowns, but then he got hurt. So it looks like he's going to play week 1. But he's the clear tight end 1 at BYU. I think if he's healthy, he's going to far outperform his 2021, should outperform his 2020. 12 touchdowns is hard to match. You kind of expect touchdown regression from the freshman year, but still with the number of balls, and tight ends usually do really well in that BYU offense. I like Rex a lot.
Yeah, definitely. That 12 touchdowns, especially thinking about when he got those 12 touchdowns, is pretty huge. But yeah, that's going to be very interesting to see if he can regain that form, because if you got a guy that has already tasted those 12 touchdowns, he's going to be wanting to eat some more and get himself some more scores, which is going to be huge, because if you can get a red zone option like that, that may be the only thing you get from your tight end is red zone scores. You might not get a whole lot of possession stuff or PPR from them. So that'd be great to get some Isaac Rex touchdowns back in for the 2022 season.
Did you say he's going to eat some more touchdowns? You going a little Jameis Winston on us there? Eat a W kind of vibe there from you.
He sure might.
All right. Well, that's all I've got on my sleepers list. Any others that you wanted to call out today?
There really isn't any others. Like I said, tight end, we covered pretty much everybody that was on my list. I think Sam Laporta was the one that was really interesting there. I take that back. I think that Xavier Gravette from Coastal Carolina, if he can get in there and fill in that gap from Isaiah Likely, that could be huge, because Coastal and Grayson, they really utilize that tight end position. That's one that gets a lot of play. There's been a lot of attrition at the top end positions at Coastal Carolina. So if he's able to come in and fill some of those gaps, it's going to be Grayson Mccall is going to be able to get a lot of completions to him. He could be somebody worthwhile to have on your roster as well.
Heck yeah, that sounds good. Well, man, I look forward to so we're off next week, right? You're out of town next week?
Oh, no, I'll be back. If we want to come back next week, we can. I'll be back, but I'm not getting back till like Monday or Tuesday. But I'm going to be leaving 11 o'clock tonight. 11 o'clock tonight. I'll be leaving with a bunch of the guys from Scout Comics to head up to Shreveport, Louisiana for GeekCon. So again, if you guys are up at in Shreveport, Louisiana, and you're going to GeekCon, and you see the Scout Comics booth, head on over there. If you want to talk some college fantasy, get a selfie with me, something like that. I won't even charge. Let's hang out for a little bit, man. Let's have some fun. So yeah, Shreveport, Louisiana at the Shreveport Convention Center. I'm going to be up there Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but there's a long drive there, a long drive back. So yeah, but I'll be back in time.
Yeah, sounds good. I'll actually be out of town at the Keys with a little work/fun trip. So that'll be, I got a couple client meetings, but I should be available, and I'll just be, audio would be probably a little worse, but we should keep it rolling as we kind of get ready for week 1 here. And then in season, when we get to that point, man, that's going to be a lot of fun. Going over the stats, going over all the news, and going over player rankings, and then best DFS picks for every week. So that's going to be a blast when we get to it. And, a week from Saturday, we'll be at week 0. So super stoked.
I love it. So BMAC, where can people find you? Where can people find CFB Dynasty on social media? If they're like, man, I love this podcast, I want to be able to find out some more stuff about CFB, but also about BMAC, where can they find you?
Yeah, so at CFB Dynasty is mostly me. So you can come on there, chat with me. We're really trying to build the community and get everyone involved and just have fun this season. So our Discord channel is still really young. If you go into our main navigation, you'll see our Discord link for you to join. It's free. It's fun. We've got a great group of guys in there right now. But come out there, mingle. That's where we're going to be taking questions for the podcast. We'll be taking questions for DFS players and all of that stuff as we get into the season. So just getting in there is the best spot where you can kind of PM or DM me anytime and chat through any fantasy questions, trade evaluations, whatever. Discord will be where it's at.
And if you guys have not done your draft yet, you want to make sure you get up to cfbdynasty.com, become a subscriber, get your hands on these rankings list so that way you can have the edge in your upcoming draft. Make sure that you get the right picks, the right sleepers, so that way you can be the one to bring home the ship. My name is Matt Knowles. As you see, I am a part of Team InSim, InSymmetry Creations, INSYMMETRY Creations.com. You can go to Facebook /InSim. You can go to InSim Creations on Twitter and InSymmetry Creations on Instagram. That's where our comic and content writing is all there. You got comics, metal music, horror movie and geek culture articles, all kinds of fun stuff, and CFB Dynasty.
Heck yeah, Matt. Well, I appreciate it. Always fun. I'm good. Unless you have any closing comments, we can get out of here.
That's it. I'm looking forward to this season. BMAC, thanks for having me on. And you guys, next time you hear us, we're going to be right there on the cusp of the college football season, week 0. Looking forward to it. Get on the Discord, ask some questions, and let's have some fun.
Appreciate it, man. See you guys.
See ya.